Good evening, everybody. Welcome to what is actually the second round of the CCRL Elite Tier season. It's being held at the Albert Park Circuit here in Melbourne, Australia, down under, for round number 2, of which should be a fantastic campaign. Hotspot, happy to be back on the call with you. Feels like it's been a little while. Certainly has. Missed last time out in Bahrain. I heard that was a pretty fun one. And we do have a great season on the way here for this 5th season of the Elite Tier. So, this is the thing with Australia, okay? I think this has become a very fun track with the renovations made over the past couple of years, which I'm sure you know about at this point. However, with this game's handling model, this track has become 10 times more difficult. These cars are so very sharp in their turning inputs that a lot of these corners, man, you might just have a good spin. It went into time trial for, a good 10-15 minutes or so, getting a feel of the track, just so I know what these drivers are going to be going through. Guys, let me tell you something. I think I managed maybe 3 good laps. These cars, so sharp in their turning, and this track has been made so difficult in this game. We're going to definitely expect some thrills and spills tonight. But, here we are then. Should be a fantastic race this. Nonetheless, we've got 17, perhaps even more, joining the fray here in a little bit. Dry for the time being. I don't know if it's going to stay that way during the race, but we'll find out in a little bit. So, we'll take you through the season schedule. Tonight, obviously, round number 2 in Australia. Next time out, we do have the sprint race weekend at Silverstone on July the 3rd, actually a day before America's independence. That's kind of funny. I like that. July the 10th, we head to Qatar for round number 4. Should be a fun one, that one, as we do have a McLaren coming out on track first. It's going to be that of John the Prince. He's the only McLaren that we have on the grid. Round 4, Qatar. Round 5th, we head to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Jeddah Corniche Circuit for round number 5. Round number 6, we do actually have a redemption night taking place at the Sao Paulo Circuit in Brazil. Or, sorry, what's the actual name of that track? The Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Should be fantastic. Round 7, we head to the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, Austria. Round 8, August 7th, we head to the Circuit Barcelona, Catalunya in Spain. Round number 9, on August the 14th, we head to the Zandvoort Circuit for round number 9 in the Netherlands. Should be a fantastic race, that. Penultimate round of round 10. August 21st, we do head to the Mexico City Circuit. That should be a very fun one, that. And to round out the season, we do head back to Abu Dhabi. That track, let me tell you something as well. That Abu Dhabi track, with the renovations made there, absolutely fun. I think it's a great fun time. We do have John the Prince out on track first here. We do have a couple of new faces in here. Oh, by the way, howdy Trackside. How you doing? Former broadcast partner of mine. He's gone behind the wheel this season. Good luck to him. I don't usually pick favorites, I certainly don't, but, I'll be rooting for him in silence. John the Prince making his way out of the final corner, turn 14, and down the pit straight. Now, this is where the difficulties begin already. This first corner used to be you go down to 4th, and it's kind of a slow on the way in, and you transition as hard as you can, but look at the turning input. That car has absolutely wanted to keep pushing forward, but at the same time, it's cut so sharply to the inside. I mean, you're going to expect all the tank slappers here today. This is going to be one of the most difficult races these drivers have to do all season. And the rest of Sector 1, no easier either. Exiting, turn 5 now. That corner has actually gotten kind of okay with the amount of downforce on these cars. But look at the speed John the Prince is trying to pull through turns 6 and 7. I mean, it's ridiculous. The amount that they're trying to just really wrestle these cars through the corner at the absolute edge of the limit. I mean, these guys, it's getting ridiculous here. John the Prince now going to be going through the turn 9 and 10 chicane. I mean, oh, goodness me. Now, he's almost taken that flat. Granted, he's in 6th gear. That used to be one of the hardest combinations of corners, and now it's still just as hard, but with double the risk at the speed these cars are carrying. Going through turn 11, 12, and 13. Coming up here, the tight left-hander at turn 13. Always a fun one in the race. This kind of sets up the back end of the lap. I don't like this 14th corner, I will tell you that, but it does provide a little bit of extra challenge at the tail end of the lap here. John the Prince to the line is going to be a 1:17.638. I don't know how good that actually is. I was in the mid-118s in time trial, albeit I am using more assists than the next person twice. So, I don't know. 1:17.638 looks to be very good. Reimer, 1:17.693. behind by less than a tenth of a second. Barney actually not all that far off either. Also, within that 1/10 of a second gap. Trackside, look at that. Well, he's immediately been done out there by the Williams of... How the hell do I pronounce that? Soxy? Sox? I think I'm just going to call him Sox for now. I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, but Sox has gone first place. He actually won last time out in Bahrain. The Williams driver. What in the hell has gone on with this? I mean, invisible barrier perhaps for the car of Sepulveda, which can't seem to move out of the way. I do not understand. Thankfully, he's ghosted, so nobody's going to be, driving through him necessarily, but, interesting. Anyways, back out on track, we do have one of the Haas coming around the final corners coming up here. It is that of Shiesty. Now, this will be what I believe to be a... he's actually going to pull in the pit lane here, a little surprised. Says he's got 100% battery. I don't necessarily believe that's true, but he's on his way in. That will be probably the end of the first round of qualifying runs here, although we do have Johnny Damon making his way through Sector 3 now. Let's see how our Sauber driver gets on here. That 1:16.3 by the Williams is definitely the best lap that we've seen so far, and by some margin as well. Now that group there of Trackside, John the Prince, Reimer, and Barney was all within a good, tenth and a half, 2/10 at the most of each other. And then Soxy has actually done that by, nearly... He's done it by well over a second. Johnny Damon, 1:18.174. Halfway decent lap from him. He'll still have time to improve. But, yeah, interesting. Has Sepulveda's car figured itself out? No, it hasn't. Agnote is yet to come out on a track. Owa, the Red Bull, is on the intermediates. Interesting. Pontiac Bandit making his way through Sector 1. This surely won't be a timed attempt from him. We got the pair of the Aston Martins rounding the final corner here. Angry Walrus into the pit lane. R. Manson following suit. We do have after that, I believe, Bong It coming through what is actually named Ascari Corner, as far as I know. Let me see if I can get these corner names correctly. I'll take you through those in a second here when we have somebody else coming through in a timed lap. Ferrari with this most recent update, as you can see, sporting the HP sponsorships that they've come to the agreement to. Bong it, and across the line as the Ferrari does go 1:17.997, improves by a quarter of a second. For Bong, and I believe is this the Red Bull of Owa here. Nope, not the Red Bull of Owa. It's actually Agnote, perhaps? No? Oh, it was actually the RB then. Soxy's gone 1:15.720, and is actually done even better than that previous lap attempt that was already, well over a second clear of the rest of the field. Matter of fact, he's actually done that previous time by 7/10. That's a lot of damage. Let's see if anybody can put together a good result here. We do have one of the Red Bulls on the way. It's Owa, heading in towards Jack Brabham corner here, turn 1. It'll be exiting turn 2, Jones after that. There are corner names for the circuit. I do kind of know them a little bit. Exits turn 2, heading into 3 and 4. These corners not named. Turn 5 is. That's Whiteford corner. Actually gone heavy on the brakes here. I don't actually believe he's... Well, he is on the intermediates anyways, isn't he? Through Whiteford corner, making his way, heading towards turns 6 and 7 coming up here. Then the Jim Clark turn 9 corner. No longer turn 10 here. Matter of fact, that wasn't even turn 9. I'm looking at an old map. Turn 11 and 12, what used to be. Now turns 9 and 10 coming up here on the intermediate tires nonetheless. But after that, we do head to Ascari corner coming up here. We have Ascari. We have the Haas of Barney going through Stewart corner. Alain Prost, turn 15. And then the final corner, which isn't named. So by that standard, I'll just go with the numbers. Probably easier at this point. But anyways. Owa is going to complete this lap despite being on the intermediate tires, gets himself a lap on the board. That's always important. What I will say is this, that it's definitely getting cloudy here. I think maybe are we going to... I don't... God forbid we see rain in this qualifying session, but it certainly looks as if it is getting cloudy quite quickly. I have not been told that we're getting rain in this session. I do not believe that we are at this point. Just under 9 minutes to go. I don't know if we're going to be getting into the rain. But if we do end up getting rain in the race, that would mean that we're going to see a lot of these guys put on kind of a more conservative race trim. Instead of, trying to throw everything at the track now, they will sometimes kind of err to the side of having a comfortable car that they can easily drive in the rain. Perhaps, are we kind of seeing that from some of these guys? But are guys like Trackside, throwing everything at the track now and coming up second place? Could be the result. Might not be. Let's find out what Angry Walrus has to do here. He has yet to put together a time, making his way through the first couple of corners here. He's done very well. That car did not look out of shape at all through that first section of corners. Now in towards turns 3 and 4. Sepulveda's Sauber still stuck there, going back and forth in reserve, back and forth, as if it was Logan Sargent trying to back away from the bollard in the parking lot, which I believe it was that of Keim Illman found in the build-up to the Grand Prix last weekend. But it's Angry Walrus now. Oh, that's interesting. A blade of grass has actually flung itself on the camera lens. I didn't notice it did that. DRS activated here. Remember, 4 DRS sections on this track. That was initially the plan. In the first Grand Prix weekend after they had made the renovations, that was initially the plan. They'd actually ditched that after FP2, got rid of the DRS section here, going down in towards Ascari Corner. They've since brought it back, and there's only just the 2 detection points on this track. One of them is going to be right here. This is the detection zone before going down the pit straight. The other one is actually exiting turn number 6 and 7, and that will take you from the DRS going through Sector 2 in towards the flick left and right of turns 9 and 10, and then down towards Ascari turn 11. Angry Walrus has gone a very good lap here. He's gone, what is that, 1:16.871. That is a very respectable attempt. Moves within a second and a half of Soxy, who Soxy, by the way, about to start a lap here. Let's see what the Williams driver, championship leader for the time being, has to offer. Through the first corner, as you can see, he's really trying to fight that car. The speed he's carried through it is ridiculous. But again, the car's turned so sharp, it almost as if it doesn't know how to catch up to itself in order to get you, in a comfortable turn-in phase. You have to either commit or back out of it and kind of go slower on entry. That's really what's separating, I think, is maybe the Williams driver here just kind of a little bit more committed to going balls to the wall. Well, what he's done is he's gone over the white line there, and that will invalidate his lap, although I don't believe for the time being he'll have much dispute on who's going to be taking that pole spot. A second and a half between him and from him to P4. Yeah. 6 minutes remaining here in the qualifying session. We do have next up coming around the line, I believe it's John the Prince. About to start one here. We were on with John the Prince initially. Let's see him again. Let's see how difficult he takes his first corner. That one wasn't bad, but you can tell he's kind of done it just slightly tentatively, really. You see, he hasn't fully gone gutsy with it here. Might be different through 3. That's another thing. If you have... This is another thing that I've really noticed with this game. I do use medium traction control. I don't race competitively. I race in the career mode, and that's about it. So medium traction control and ABS works for me. If you have medium traction control and anything below 65% of your brake bias to the front wheels, you're going spinning coming off the corner, really. I mean, the throttle on these cars are so sensitive. Even medium traction control, it feels like you were on on none in previous games. They are so just out of whack, really. And then the brakes, I mean, as you know, what they tell you when you set up these cars, that the more brake bias you have towards the rear end, the more the back end of the car will try to come around from you when you exit the braking zone, like coming out of 13 here. See, now that car's gone a bit stable, but as you can tell, he's really been hesitant getting on the throttle, so that would tell me he's got a lot of his bias set towards the rear of the car. And he's had to wrestle it, really. Well, he's gone into 4th, a half a second quicker for John the Prince. That's no laughing matter. That's a great attempt from him. And I tell you what is slightly being overlooked here is the fact that positions 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, all within a second of each other here. Fantastically close grid. Matter of fact, that gap between, 8 and 9th of Bonga and Kato, less than 5/100ths of a second. That's very close between those two. It's about a tenth between John the Prince and Barney for that 4th spot. Barney's actually on an outlap now, making his way through 6 and 7. Let me tell you something. Remember not long ago how I was talking about the skies getting gray? Yeah, they're quite gray at the moment. It does look as if rain could be on the agenda here. Although I tell you what, I'm very curious to see these cars in the dry. I say that though. The racing is undoubtedly, I think, better in the dry, but I have yet to see a league with these cars in the wets yet, so I'm kind of interested in how that would go. Sepulveda's Sauber here has still refused to move itself from the thing. That's kind of unfortunate. We do now have, I believe, is an Alpine it's DWCJ making his way into turn 3. He's currently 10th at the moment. Only about 0.2 of a second behind Kato for that 9th spot. He can really interject himself into this battle here. Within the higher end of the midfield. Nearly 0.4 of a second quicker through Sector 1. That is a hell of an improvement. Making his way now through turn 8. Down through the swooping section of DRS here up towards turns 9 and 10. Let's see how he handles this. Half a second quicker through Sector 2. Yeah, I tell you what, he's gotten a little squirrely there. Through the second phase of that corner, he may have lost time, but an improvement so far nonetheless. If he can keep the car within track limits here, I think he will get past Kato, perhaps bong it, and there were some raindrops. We've got 2.5 minutes remaining in this session. The rain has just started falling. There it is. Let's see now if perhaps do we have anybody else putting in a final attempt. The rain is falling. These will undoubtedly be the last couple of timed attempts here. DWCJ's gone 117. And he's actually now moved himself up to 4th. That's a fantastic attempt. We've got the Red Bull coming out of the final corner now. It's going to be that of, I believe, is it Onyote? No, it's actually Owa on his way in. We've got the Haas of Shiesty moving through the final stages of the lap. Barney making his way through here. Barney's actually spun coming out of the final corner. That's unfortunate. I think he was on an improvement as well. We do have Shiesty. He is going to stay out here. Shiesty making his way around the final corner. The track isn't wet yet. But as you can see, the grip is not going to be getting any better. Shiesty cross the line does not improve. 6/1000 slower. We do have Bong it into the pit lane, and I think that may do it unless... Does the Aston Martin, perhaps, of Angry Walrus have anything to say about it? To the line goes Angry Walrus. No, he's slower by over a half a second. Reimer in the pit lane. Trackside working his way out of the final couple of corners now, and it has to be said, Trackside does not appear as if he's going to be finishing this one out. We do have that of our Manson, as previously mentioned. He's into the pit lane. The pair of the V-Carbs behind him, Pontiac Bandit. Apparently he's going to look to start one here as well as Curveball. Okay, so here we go. Perhaps do we have a tow in the proceedings here between the V-Carb drivers? Curveball's going to be going first through the first couple of corners. Track still does not show signs of standing water. That's very important. We do have DWCJ making his way through the final stages of the lap now, although he will be into the pit lane. That's going to be it. We've got maybe 2 laps left on schedule here. Curveball, 3.5 of a second quicker through Sector 1. He may still have a chance here. Pontiac Bandit, well, I didn't see his time, but he has gotten I'd say good bit slower here. He may not be completing this lap. He's gone wide there exiting turn 4. I think the goal now is Curveball, who is now slower by over a second through Sector 1. We'll get the confirmation here in a second. And yep, he is slower by 2.5 seconds. So that looks like it will be it for the qualifying session. Unless does Angry Walrus have anything to say? No, he doesn't. It's going to be the Williams of Soxy on pole. Walrus second, Reimer third. Absolutely stacked top 4 here with DWCJ joining the proceedings as well. And oh, by the way, Trackside, very good result from him. Taking 5th. John the Prince 6th. Barney 7th. V-Carb of Curveball 8th. Bong at 9th. Kato 10th. Pontiac Bandit 11th. 12th is our Manson. 13th is Johnny Damon. 14th Shiesty. 15th Owa. 16th is Charlie Golf. 17th is Sepulveda. And Onyote 18th as well. Neither of which able to get a time on the board. But I tell you what, if that is the quality of that Williams driver, again, I have yet to see him in a competitive display. Goodness me, a second clear of the field, though. Tell you what, it's going to be a tough one to beat him. But maybe the weather comes into the favor of some drivers. I don't know if it's going to rain like this in the race session, but 29 laps of the Albert Park circuit yet to come here. Should be a fantastic turn of events nonetheless. Hey, so remember not long ago when I said that I didn't want it to rain? Holy crap. is it raining here in Australia. Intermediates at least coming out to play here. This is going to be, I mean, this might be something. That's for sure. I mean, the rain is properly falling here. Not only is it falling as hard as it is, I mean, it's not. It doesn't appear like it's going to get any lighter. I mean, this is rain that will eventually be collecting on the track surface and just putting in absolute puddles on this track. Already a track that we've seen so many drivers struggle with already today. I mean, goodness me, man, this is getting rough. I think, though, what that could mean is that we do get, carnage isn't something that I hope for. Okay, it's not. But when we do see that big of a gap between first and second place in qualifying, yeah, I hope for just a little bit. Nothing against Soxy. There's nothing wrong with him. There's nothing wrong against the guy. It's the first race I've ever casted with, of seeing him. But goodness me, if that's the level of domination he's going to perform, I want some action. And what we may get with that is at least positions 2 through 10 within a second of each other. It's going to be a fantastic battle in the midfield here today. I do hope. It doesn't appear like it's going to happen this way, but I do hope that we do get some dry running in, because this track has been made so much more fun with the changes that were made. They've promoted overtaking. They've added another DRS section. I mean, this track has really, and I say this every time we've come here since they've put in these renovations, this track has absolutely had a renaissance. Okay, it has totally, reclaimed its stake of belonging on the Formula One calendar, and I believe that is going to be our first race next season in 2025. I believe, yeah, I think it is that of Australia is going to be round number 1 again, as it should be. Nature is healing. But nature is crying in game at the moment. And the question is, again, this is what I was kind of trying to catch on to. How many of these drivers did put on a setup that would favor their car in the rain rather than the qualifying session? Did we see some drivers that are towards the top end of this grid really throw on a dry setup, smack it in qualifying, but may struggle here in the race? That's a possibility. 29 laps of the circuit yet to come here. It's a challenging circuit in any condition. It's narrow. It will punish you if you make a mistake. And these are certainly conditions that will breed mistakes. Trackside has joined and left a couple of times here. I think if we're just waiting for him. Well, the word at 10:25 was 2 minutes. That was a minute ago. Bongit is trying to help Trackside get back in. That's why we're seeing him join and unjoin and rejoin again a couple of times. Apparently he's having some issues with the game kicking him. What do we have coming up this weekend in real life Formula One? I believe it's the Red Bull Ring. That should be a fantastic race, shouldn't it? Always the threat of rain with that as well. I'm interested to see, because the last time we had a track that really ran, the quick speeds, I mean, I don't know. Are we going to see some engine calamities at the Red Bull Ring, perhaps? I think. Whatever upgrades that the Red Bulls have put onto their cars have not worked. Of course, Verstappen won. But I think that's more down to talent than how that car is actually handling. I don't know, man. This is... I will say this. I didn't even test. I didn't run any laps in time trial. In the wet. I do not envy what is happening here. That's for sure. 30 seconds or less here coming on the way in. I believe formation lap should be on. Don't really know if it is, but if it is, That's going to help our guys get some running going here. And yet, formation lap underway. Doesn't appear that there's enough standing water to warrant the intermediate, or the full wets. It's going to be intermediates up and down the grid, I believe. Only one driver has decided the wet tires. It's going to be that of the Williams of Cato here. Which is an interesting decision, because if the conditions aren't optimal for the wet tires, they will wear faster. So I'm curious to see if these conditions that we're currently facing are enough to warrant having the wet tires on display. I think the intermediates, probably the right choice for the time being. I will say this, the rain is falling. It's falling pretty good, but it's not falling heavier. It definitely looked worse from the pit lane camera. What can I say? And can I say this? This track, the graphics that they've done for the wet tires does look absolutely phenomenal as well. It does look, you know, shiny and greasy as a intermediate type tire wet weather running should. I mean, this looks actually brilliant for what it is. So, Soxy on pole, Angry Walrus second, Reimer third, DWCJ fourth, Trackside fifth. Trackside, I don't believe, has he been able to rejoin the session. His car is ghosted. DWCJ put in a good lap towards the tail end of the session. Definitely look for him to make some moves here. Reimer, of course, very talented driver in his own right. Angry Walrus, super, super talented driver. And I think maybe, now, of course, well, there's your tire window, 14 to 18 for the intermediates to put on a second set. Of course, we don't know if we're going to get a full race of rain. Could be, but what I will say about this, if the domination of the qualifying session was anything to go off of course, I didn't see last week's race in Bahrain, but if it was anything like the domination we saw from that Williams driver here in the qualifying session, I can tell you this, Angry Walrus may just try to give it the beans into the first corner. As they line up on the grid here, we are waiting for Agnote to line up at the back. We've got a couple of cars disqualified. The pole sitter of Soxy, as well as Barney and Pontiac Bandit, and I think, perhaps, unless Agnote gets back correctly here, Cato's actually been disqualified as well. That McLaren of Charlie Golf pointed way to the inside. And now here we go. Lights turning on here in Australia. What in the hell is happening? It's a heartbeat. Anyways, 5 lights, and we're off here at the Albert Park circuit in the dreariest of conditions. It's a very even getaway between the two at the top, but Soxy does get into the first corner ahead. It is going to be that of Reimer trying the outside through turn 1. He'll have the advantage through turn 2 if he can stay on track. He does fall behind that of Angry Walrus. Not a lot of moving about towards the back. All these drivers trying to be as careful as they can, but Charlie Golf trying it perhaps around the outside here of Pontiac Bandit. He's into the barrier on the outside, as well as we've got Cato to the inside trying to make a move. I'm interested to see if these wet tires are going to hold water here as far as trying to have some grip. Who doesn't have grip is that of Charlie Golf. That was a massive tank slapper, and into the wall he goes. Cato does as well. Couple of drivers already smacking the barriers exiting turn 5. Great battling happening here at the back. Lots of contact between Johnny Damon and Charlie Golf. Who hasn't had any running is Agnote, or as we do have DWCJ and Reimer, I believe. Something's happened there. Reimer has fallen to the 4th spot. DWCJ has gotten around. Soxy was initially out to a second advantage over Angry Walrus. It's back within a second between these two. Reimer trying to hunt down DWCJ, who may have had somewhat of an error, or perhaps was it Reimer's error, and now it's a 1.5 second gap between second and third here. That could very well be the case. But after the first lap is all said and done, as we do have Sepulveda and our Manson trading positions here on the way into Ascari, as now Shiesty trying to look for the inside of Johnny Damon. This one getting very hairy between the two here. Shiesty's going to have to try it around the outside. Maybe will he find his way to keep the inside line going through 14? That's exactly what it's looking like. Owa looking on and hoping that they make a mistake ahead. Very even getaway between the two, and it looks as if Shiesty's going to file in line. Does Owa have an opportunity perhaps on the Haas ahead? No, they're going to play it safe through the first corner here, but already, look at them both into the grass, and Johnny Damon's gone round. Owa's move up the spot, but Johnny Damon off at the back. Oh, and thank goodness Ghosting's on. He would have taken at least 4 cars with him then. That was scary. Wow, and already, well, that was a bit of a risky one, that. We've got a couple of cars battling here. Curveball within a couple of tenths of John the Prince. Barney follows close. Pontiac Bandit not all that far behind him. Pontiac Bandit, he's going to get a bit of a tank slapper into the corner and lose a lot of ground. Barney on the back of Curveball here, perhaps, as they're going to be going through the high-speed section of this track. Do they hold on? Do they find the toe enough to maybe trade positions here? Haas of Barney, can he find anything on Curveball? DRS obviously won't be activated, but in through the turn 9 and 10 switchback here, it looks all safe and all even between these three. As for the time being, everything appears to have calmed down. I'm interested to see what this wet weather, the full wet tire strategy by Kato is. Of course, the cars actually looked slightly okay. He's not really losing a lot of time. I think Pontiac Bandit ahead of him is actually just being more careful than anything else. That's why we've got that big of a gap between position 9 and 10. As Soxy and the Williams has the fastest lap once more here. Exiting the final corner they go, down the pit straight. Bongit leads the parade. Actually, Trackside does. Let's see if Bongit has anything in the first corner. No, but I think if either of these drivers make a mistake, it will be capitalized on. A little bit of a slide there for Trackside, but I think Bongit had an equal amount of a slide. And, well, nothing changes unless does Curveball have the inside on John the Prince here. This turn 3 braking zone very difficult, as John the Prince proves that. Well, he's nearly gone off track there. He's held it together somehow. Curveball's going to try to switch to the left side. Maybe he'll have the right side going through turn 5. That's exactly what he's going to do here. Does he have the inside? Does he have enough acceleration on the inside? No, not quite. Fair effort from Curveball, but he's not going to have it for the time being. We had a position change at the back. I believe it was Sepulveda, and that of Armanson perhaps traded a position. We've got Bong at 4/10 of a second away from Trackside here, although 4/10 of a second in the wet. Going through 9 and 10. I tell you what, they've handled it pretty well. I'm just waiting for somebody, though, to hit that curb too much on the outside and spin off and hit those Lenovo advertised barriers on the inside there, as we're going to see Shiesty. No, not Shiesty. Well, they're all through it now. But you know what I'm talking about. You know the corner. I'm sure you've hit it at some point in your days. Through turn 13 now. Bongit's still within pursuit of that of Trackside. What I will say is this, that gap behind, as here we go, Bongit looking to the inside now on Trackside. They're going to be side by side, not necessarily wheel to wheel down the pit straight. I think Bongit's actually going to, not necessarily cede position, but he's going to hold off his attack for the time being, which I think was kind of smartly done. Oh, and well, I don't even know what's happening with Trackside. He was going head-on into the barriers on the outside, but apparently that car is just fine. Curveball now to the inside of John the Prince. Does he have it this time through turn 3? I think if he keeps trying to force John the Prince into an error into one of these braking zones, he may just have him. But for the time being, John the Prince maintains that 7th spot. Again, that McLaren is either struggling or having to play very carefully, because that is a 1.5-second gap between himself and Bongit here, and Bongit's not making any mistakes. He's not making any mistakes ahead of him, of course. But either way, I would expect that McLaren to perhaps fall down the order here, unless he can find some pace. In towards turns 9 and 10 now. Barney still doing his best at the back of Curveball here again. Any mistake by either of these two drivers in front of him, and there will absolutely be capitalization involved. Down the back straight now, heading in towards Ascari corner. Let's see, nothing probably going to be of it here. They've actually widened this corner, but what we do have is Bongit, who I believe has gone around the outside of Trackside going through the corners. We've got Pontiac Bandit now. The moment I swap away from that battle, and Pontiac Bandit is in the gravel exiting Ascari corner. It looks as if he's not hit anything, but he's lost several positions there. Those tires are going to be extra warm now. He's got to be extra careful as he tries to get back up to speed. John the Prince, I think, kind of swerved to the inside, trying to break the toe from Curveball and maybe hold position. He's done that for now. Trying to track down Charlie Golf here, exiting turn 2. Curveball trying to work on John the Prince, still exiting turn number 3, nothing of it. This gap between the top two, I will say this, Soxy, despite the good laps he's putting together, for the time being, these times between the Williams and the Aston Martin of Angry Walrus have stayed slightly stagnant. Neither one of these drivers are either pulling ahead or falling behind one another. It's a very even battle, great pace between the two. They've put 5.5 seconds back to DWCJ. Reimer's actually lost 3.5 back to DWCJ. That Alpine's got some pace, man. I tell you what, he put in a great effort in qualifying. I wouldn't be surprised if he can find the podium here. So exiting the switchback of turns 9 and 10 they go. Barney in position on curveball here again. There's the 3.5, 4/10 of a second. You're not going to die from that spot. You're really not. Unless you're within 2/10, you're not finding a move. Not this time. But any mistake could be capitalized on. Curveball nearly had one there going through turn. What was that? Turn 12. Really got sideways. A brilliant save in fairness from the V-Carb driver. But either way, that one got close. Exiting the final corner now. John the Prince within 0.3 of a second on trackside. I have a feeling it may happen here into turn 1. John the Prince looking for it on the inside. Doesn't quite have it. The trackside will outbreak him into the corner. Either that or John the Prince has played it carefully. Heading in towards turn 3 now. It looks as if this time, nope, still nothing of it between any of these drivers here. The grid has slightly calmed down a little bit. That much is to be said. But what I will say is that maybe now, oh, I tell you what, that was a good save from trackside. That car was well on its way to the barriers on the outside. Very difficult stuff. As Bong it now, within 2/10 on Reimer. Reimer's lost a little bit more time back to DWCJ. Either that, or Bongit has actually improved that much more. I think it might be Bongit's improved. Looking forward on the Mercedes here. Let's see. Reimer is definitely having to drive carefully. That car... Well, I say that. Well, actually, the pace for Reimer has stayed the same. DWCJ has made a mistake somewhere. He's actually now 9 seconds behind Angry Walrus and Soxy at the top of the grid. I think he must have had something happen to the Alpine. That's why. But Curveball now around at the back, exiting Ascari. Thankfully, it doesn't appear that he hits anything. The track will stay green otherwise, but down to 13th for the V-Carb driver. I'm interested to see if and when pit stops come around, do we get ourselves a situation where we get some sort of transition window from wet to dry. For the time being, it doesn't appear that that's going to be the case. Down the pit straight they go. Owa trying to close in on Charlie Golf. I'm interested to see what's going on with Kato here. He has not improved. Those wet tires, which I thought may have been a good idea in the beginning, it was definitely different. He's the only driver to have started on those wet tires. I think maybe has he picked them thinking, or, looking at the radar and saying, hey, this is going to get worse before it gets better. That's probably what he was on about, but it's not helped him for the time being. We do have a yellow flag at the back. Pontiac Bandit's gone around. I think Johnny Damon, it is Johnny Damon. He's picked up 3 seconds for multiple warnings. And is now testing the rev limiter in the reverse gear. Into the wall backwards. And back in the correct orientation. Unfortunate day for Johnny Damon, only going from bad to worse very quickly. We do now have Charlie Golf. Oh, see, that was almost the mistake there from Kato. He has saved it, but that was nearly catastrophic for the Williams driver. If he hit that barrier on the inside, it was going to be all over. That will promote Charlie Golf to the 9th spot. Owa in behind. Owa may actually have a look here at Kato if Kato can't hold on. Charlie Golf nearly just lost the car there going through 12. These conditions super tough for the time being. Let's see if Owa can try to close in on either of the 2 drivers ahead of him as they exit the final corner. Acceleration, I think, goes more in the way of Charlie Golf than anything else. We do have is that, that's the Sauber, I think, of Johnny Damon off again going through turn 8. Oh, a lot of play on the back end for Kato that time. Somehow, and I will say this, we have seen a few spins. Oh, does he look to the inside? He's going to try it on the brakes into turn 3. Drivers giving each other plenty of room here. You like to see that level of respect. It's great racing. Oh, does he get it around the outside? No, but he will still have the inside going through 4, maybe through 5. Oh, against the wall, contact, and the Williams has gone round, and he's lost a bit of front wing as well. And I think that V-carb of Curveball totally just ran over that piece of front wing. If he picks up a puncture, that could very likely be in the cards. And, well, I don't know if either of the drivers was at fault there. Kato could make the claim that he was pushed to the outside barrier in fairness to him. Yeah, I don't know, but here's Agnote trying the inside. Johnny Damon's retired to the pit lane, unfortunately for him. Kato still now trying to work the inside of the Red Bull here. Sepulveda trying it around the outside. 3-car battle. As it turns out, he's only lost the end plate on the left front side. Could have been worse. Oh, and both cars in the wall now. Sepulveda's lost a lot of his front wing. I think Pontiac Bandit has as well. Kato's back in the gravel. Agnote and Sepulveda both really got into the Armco barrier on the outside. Or, not the Armco barrier, it's just kind of concrete at that point. But either way, massive damage now to the Sauber of Sepulveda. He'll be coming in here. Interestingly enough, we've gotten a bit of a new damage model with the front wings. That's interesting. Pit stop early here for Sepulveda, unfortunately. Although what I will say, he's only about 5 laps shy of the pit window. Could have been worse. Yeah, but it will be a front wing replaced here. And it looks as if Pontiac Bandit on the way in as well. Kato in here. Kato, I believe, as he pit for the intermediates. That would be my guess. And that's exactly what he's done. Back up to the battles here. Bongit, 2.5 tenths of a second away from Reimer. Looking to the right side. A little bit of a contact with the wall there on the outside. Heavy across the inside curb. Bongit has not had that section of the track very well at all. Reimer's been able to pull away a couple of tenths here after that. I mean, Bongit hit the wall onto the inside of the corner, on the outside, and then going over the curb took a lot of it. Probably picked up a warning, to be honest with you, with how much curb he did take. But half a second here between Bongit and Reimer. We do have Barney within half a second of John the Prince as well. And, of course, R. Manson trying to reel in. Agnote's trackside's gone around. Well, he hasn't gone around, but he has found the grass on the outside. That, well, he has made the mistake. He has fallen to 8th. Probably, though, best case scenario, as he's not hit anything, and he's kept the car in a straight line. He's had oversteer coming out of that 13th corner, which has propelled him to the grass on the left side of the circuit. He's had at least keep the car straight and has not hit anything. That is a good result for trackside. But what may not be one is that of Charlie Golf reeling him in here. Coming up on halfway through this Grand Prix, it's been very entertaining to say the least. 0.3 tenths of a second now between Bongit and Reimer making their way through turns 6 and 7. Oh, that's a little bit of a slide there for Bongit, but I think Reimer may have gone too far over the inside curb. Probably a warning picked up there to be said. Bongit 10.5 here. He's not going to have it into turn 9, not in the wet. Reimer into the wall on the outside there. Bongit's going to have a better go through 9 and 10 this time, although I think Bongit's had to check up. He may not get this move on Reimer on account of Reimer having to take an awkward line through the corner that's played him in front of the Ferrari in question, and that is going to end up being the reason why Bongit hasn't gotten that spot. Somewhere along with that, trackside's picked up a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. Charlie Golf trying to reel in the Mercedes here. Got a good battle happening at the back, I believe, between Manson and Agnote. It's certainly what it looks like. Charlie Golf trying the left-hand side, and it will be trackside on his way into the pit lane. Hopefully not to retire, but it kind of seems like it may be in that direction, unless has he hit something and is replacing a front wing. Well, it's an unplanned stop. It is new intermediate tires for the lad. Six and a half tenths of a second here between Bongit and Reimer, making their way through Sector 1 once more. I'm a little surprised. You can see a slightly dry line formed in the circuit. I mean, obviously these intermediate tires doing as best they can, evacuating as much water as possible. And what I'm actually enjoying to see is that there is a differential between a dry line and lines that haven't been taken yet. In previous games, it was just the track is wet. You know, so we're kind of starting to see that a little bit. I don't think, there's any more grip on the dry parts. Oh, but we've had a Red Bull. No, it's a V-carb that's gone around. I believe it is Pontiac Bandit. Has had a trip somewhere exiting turn 11. Thankfully, it would appear that everybody's gotten through that section of the track. Okie dokie. Although Barney within a couple of tenths of John the Prince here. Coming up on halfway through this Grand Prix in just a little bit, we will be seeing the pit window happen in approximately 3 to 4 laps time. Although what I will say is this, that rain has gotten lighter. It's nowhere close to stopping raining yet, but I do think we're headed in the right direction at least. Oh, big slide from Bongit. Well, he's caught that well, only just after exiting the second corner. Three-tenths of a second, Barney. Bit of a lockup on the way into turn 3, but he's kept it okay. Still with the 3-second time penalty to the back of John the Prince. Let's have a look at the positions gained and lost. Charlie up 8, Owa up 6, Onyote up 6. As far as in the negative direction, trackside down 9, but he has just recently pit, so maybe he can make that up. Or at least some of it. Three-tenths of a second here. Barney doing his best to wear down John the Prince. Even if he doesn't make that overtake happen legitimately, if you wear down a driver enough, you will definitely have an opportunity, and that may happen here. I think Barney's going to get better acceleration exiting turn 10. That's exactly what's going to happen, and to the inside he goes. And that one, I tell you what, some hard work there by Barney will make that move happen, but still has to fend off the McLaren, and it appears that he does. Still trying to reel each other in here. John the Prince to Barney. We've got Owa on Charlie Golf as well. Still, I will say again, you can tell the difference for the time being between, you know, the somewhat dry line and the wet line. Or, well, not the wet line, you know what I mean. You can visibly see the difference. That, I don't believe, has been a thing in these games. I don't think it's like Gran Turismo, where, you know, it legitimately dries out that section of the track. And, you know, you got the one kind of path of driving to make that happen. His trackside is actually going to get down the inside of our Manson into turn 3. Good one from trackside, a little bit more work to do. We've got a yellow flag happening somewhere along the way. Oh, it's Owa. Owa, I think... Well, he's going to lose the spot to Shiesty and Curveball here. Doesn't appear that he's hit anything, but exiting a corner somewhere along the line. That car has gotten away from him temporarily. Closest battle on track now between Reimer and DWCJ for the third spot. We haven't mentioned Reimer in a little while. Started in that third spot, made a mistake. DWCJ got ahead of him. DWCJ has been losing a heckload of time. Back to Angry Walrus and Soxy, but Reimer may have a fair opportunity to re-overtake the Alpine here for that third spot. Johnny Damon's left the session, unfortunately for him. Still now one of the closer battles on track, although we do have Onyote and trackside, but more importantly, we got a yellow flag somewhere along the line. I think maybe it was Pontiac Bandit getting out of the way. We do have a car in the pit lane now. It is the... I was about to say AlphaTauri. It's the V-Carb of Curveball into the pit lane here. R. Manson might be beginning to have a look at Onyote for that 12th spot. But more importantly, Reimer trying to reel in DWCJ here for third. As next time by, we will be halfway through this Australian Grand Prix. It's been a fascinating game this so far. Sepulveda, fastest lap. Just a reminder, the schedule coming up, I do believe we head to, what is it, Silverstone next week? Which is the one that I say? Yeah, Silverstone is next week. Good guess. Silverstone next week, July the 3rd, and then we head to Qatar, round 4, and Saudi Arabia, the Jeddah Corniche circuit, the next 3. Into the pit lane, DWCJ. Perhaps another set of intermediate tires coming, although what I will say is this. That rain definitely, you know, visibly looks lighter than what it has been. Perhaps is it going to be on its way out in about 10 laps' time? I would think that initially, but as we see these drivers pitting for new sets of intermediate tires, that kind of tells me otherwise. As we have a yellow flag, I think Pontiac Bandit... Oh, it's not Pontiac Bandit, actually. It's that of Curveball, I think, has gone into the gravel trap outside the corner. Sorry, was that a set of wet tires going on there? What was that? No, it was intermediates. I was right. Agnote, a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That must have been severe. Or maybe is that now the default penalty they give for speeding into the pit lane? That's a good question. It used to be just 5 seconds. That's a 10-second penalty for speeding on the way into the pit lane. That, I don't think, has been... That's not normal. Maybe he's either gone in there well close to full speed, or that is just the default penalty they give nowadays. It used to be 5, it's not anymore. Angry Walrus, well, the penalty he's found is 3 seconds for multiple warnings. Not rightly sure where he's picked that up along the line. Let's see, where's he going now? He's exiting turn 11, so maybe is he gone wide, exiting 9 and 10? Perhaps has he, had had to go into the runoff and, kind of cut the corner maybe through there? That would kind of be my guess. Trackside versus Barney here. Both drivers on 3 seconds of penalty. This one is for position. I'm thinking maybe... Oh, that's a big slide from trackside. Well, he's caught it. Only just. Oh, but hey, this is an interesting note. Pontiac Bandit's gone to the medium tires. I don't think that's anything worthy of pointing out, but to the mediums is Pontiac Bandit. But the majority of the drivers who are pitting here, matter of fact, all of them so far who have stopped, have put on fresh sets of intermediate tires. Does that tell me that this rain is going to hang around until the end of the session? That's really what it does look like, doesn't it? Angry Walrus now, 0.2 of a second back to Reimer, and closing, he's going to try it around the outside. And he is going to get him before they get to turns 9 and 10. Very nicely done there for Angry Walrus. I'm thinking, is he trying his best to close in on the Williams here of Soxy, despite having the gap from the pit lane time? Soxy has stayed out, and Soxy might be struggling with those intermediate tires. He had a bit of a slide coming out of turn 14. Let's see. You can see he's much more tentative getting on the throttle now. He's actually losing time. At least for the time being, back to Angry Walrus. Yeah, it would appear, minus that mistake that Walrus has just made, that Aston Martin is moving in on Soxy here rather quickly. Can we look at the telemetry? I'm going to open this as Shiesty goes round. Yeah, about half throttle. His best... What in the hell was that? That was Pontiac Bandit getting out of the way. About half throttle, really, for Soxy. He is trying to tiptoe that car around the circuit. Now, look at that. He's having oversteered through the highest speed corner on the track. Yeah, might be slightly difficult there. Agnote being overtaken to the inside by Armanson. Armanson's going to go well deep into the corner, and Agnote's going to get that one back. Sepulveda's going to try it. He'll have the left side, and he'll get Armanson as well. Although Sepulveda, whoa, big slide, but he's caught it well, and he will maintain the preferred line in through this 13th corner. Yeah, that one was close. Slow speed chase for the 15th spot here. Armanson, they get away quite evenly. Sepulveda's going to try to break the toe to the inside, and well, other than that, yeah, that's quite going to be it for that battle. Unless maybe do either of these drivers make a mistake here going through turn 3 or, going through the rest of sector 1. That would have to be my guess. Kato in 13th, the driver that started on the wet tires. As it turns out, that gamble has not paid off for him. When he goes gambling, "Oh, dang it," is the next words out of his mouth, if you know what I'm referring to there. Now, maybe that one was a bit of a reach, I apologize. But either way. Angry Walrus fastest lap, 1:29.363. Soxy has stayed out an additional lap here. Perhaps is that Williams trying to really stretch these tires as much as he can. Maybe does he know that the dries could be in play here in a little bit? That could be something. I think even if he pits, he'd stay ahead of Angry Walrus. That's a massive slide for Charlie Golf. He does catch it. The DWCJ in position here. Obviously no DRS, but he's got a bit of a toe. And now it doesn't appear that DWCJ is going to attempt that one that time, although another slide from Charlie Golf has got a yellow flag at the back. Sepulveda's gone deep into the corner. It doesn't appear he's hit anything, and the track will stay green. Yet to have a safety car, or virtual safety car for that matter, in these adverse conditions. That's quite impressive, actually. Has to be said. Nicely done. Now, these cars are practically drifting through these corners at this point. I wonder if either of them actually pit for new tires recently. Charlie Golf has not. DWCJ has, and DWCJ's tires are not looking really any better than that of Charlie Golf. Obviously, he's faster, but he is sliding just as much as that McLaren ahead of him. Although I think he's got better acceleration that time. He's going to try the left side, actually. Around the outside there, yep, and it looks as if DWCJ will make that one happen. Oh, but that back end has really tried to get away from him there on the way into turn 11. That one was desperately close. Angry Walrus, 128.748. And a reminder, that gap was about 22 seconds 4-ish laps ago. It's now down to 19.4. Soxy has stayed out again. He's either really conserving here, knowing that perhaps our dry's on the way. I will say this, that rain is hardly falling now. Even if the rain stops falling, it's going to take quite a few laps to actually, get the track back up to snuff for dry tires. It'll be 10 laps to go this time by, although we have a yellow flag. Kato and I believe, was it Onyote? Well, it's definitely Kato's gone round, exiting turn 11. So I had to point out Onyote was kind of at the scene of the crime when it happened. I apologize, but anyways. So it will be, 10 laps to go at the stripe this time. Trackside's gone round again. Thankfully, again, it appears he's not hit anything. This time it's exiting turn 2. And it looks like we're going to get ourselves back up to racing speed here. Soxy, look at him. Just tiptoeing around this circuit. Look at him go. He's trying as hard as he can through those final couple of corners. Those tires have to be absolutely blistering by now, man. There's no way they're anything shy of 70%. And I don't know if it would be the back tires or fronts that are wearing more, because naturally the fronts are wanting to push, but the rears are, spinning with the lack of grip. Seven-tenths of a second here. DWCJ back to John the Prince for that 5th spot. Only a couple of drivers with penalties, really. 6 drivers to be exact. 3-second penalties for Walrus, Bongit, Barney, Trackside, and Sepulveda. 10 seconds for Onyote for speeding into the pit lane, which I still have to question the severity of how much he actually sped into the pit lane for that to be a 10-second penalty. Unless that's new in this game. That's unheard of, really. 0.5 of a second the gap here. DWCJ trying to reel in John the Prince, now going through turn 3. And would you look at it, the rain has stopped falling. I do not see any more raindrops. The track will begin to dry out here. Any additional rain that you see is going to be spray. Now, it's up to Soxy. Does he pit this time by, perhaps? Does he pit within the next 2? For a dry set of tires. That's a slide in front of him there from Sepulveda. Soxy's going to choose not to make his way around the Sauber for the time being. He's going to lose a little bit more time back to Angry Walrus. DWCJ does get around John the Prince. That's on the way into turn 9. Bold place to make that one happen, but he's done it either way. With less than 10 laps to go and the track's starting to begin to dry out here shortly, I would think, as we had a bit of a yellow flag happening ahead. It's a very interesting question. Who strikes first on the way into the pit lane? Is it Angry Walrus? Does he pit early and maybe get somewhat of an advantage? The track is still way too wet for the dries. But you have to think it's going to happen here within just a little bit. Reimer is the first driver to commit to the soft tires. There he goes. But again, as we can see, this track's still well wet for the slicks. I'm thinking Reimer will be struggling. And again, when we do see these drivers pit, they will be for the soft tires. You will need the maximum amount of grip here while the track is still greasy and oily. As we have a yellow flag. It's the Aston Martin of Manson has actually gone around exiting turn 10 there. Thankfully, he's not hit anything, and he's gotten himself back underway, although he will lose the position at least to Sepulveda. The question now... look at this. I thought that was a lockup there. It certainly looked a bit sketchy. Reimer, absolute tiptoe through the track here. Let's see, half throttle going through turn 5. Yeah, I think that's a bit of an early choice there. Onyote's on his way in. Kato has decided to stay out. We get a yellow flag back behind, I think. Soxy's decided to stay out one more time. What does Walrus choose to do? He will stay out as well. It's going to be next up for Bongit, but again, Reimer, well, I would say struggling, but the track is starting to look quite good. Tell you what, Track's not looking too bad at the moment. It's still greasy, and it's still going to be a little bit of a challenge for Reimer here, but I tell you what, he may have hit this quite well. Barney versus, well, I tell you what, Owa's actually overtaken Reimer. That's still on the intermediate tires. Barney versus Charlie Golf here, neither of which decide to pit this time. Exiting the final corner, Barney's 0.2 of a second. Is he going to have to try the inside on Charlie Golf? There it is. He'll be able to outbrake the McLaren, and he does. That one is going to be relatively easy for Barney there, unless does he make a hash of it, and he does. Charlie Golf's going to try to swing around the outside. Charlie Golf, by the way, missing the end plate on the left front of his front wing there. Somehow still holding on quite good. Barney now back down to the inside. Looking a good battle between these two. Big slide for Charlie Golf. Gets right back into the path of Barney. Barney having to brake quite heavily there to avoid the sliding McLaren. Oh, and Reimer's gone straight through the grass, going through turns 1 and 2. Into the pit lane is that of Shiesty. He'll be the next to commit to the soft tires. What are we looking at now? Five drivers on dry compounds. Reimer, as we just saw, still struggling. Maybe is that a mistake? Maybe have they gone too soon? Soxy believes so. Walrus has decided to stay out as well. Bong it as well as that. DWCJ, bit of a lockup there on the way in as he follows in behind the Ferrari of Bong it here, half a second. Walrus does set the fastest lap on the intermediates. So now we're starting to see the times tumble here as the track gets drier and the intermediates are more working in towards, you know, a good range for them to start picking up pace. Big slide for Bong it, exiting the corner. Manson has retired on track. Where is that at? That's down the pit straight, and a safety car on track here. That car has binned it, I believe. Was that coming out of the pit lane, getting back on the throttle? That's certainly what it's looked like. And the safety car makes its first rounds here. Well, now we got drivers coming into the pit lane. Barney onto the softs. John the Prince on the softs as well. I would assume we're going to see everybody pit for slick compound tires here. Soxy's going to be the next one up. Walrus, I'm sure, is going to pit right behind him. And mind you, Walrus and Bong, it's still on 3-second penalties. So it will really be up to DWCJ for the win of the Grand Prix, but he's got 2 cars in his way. Yeah, bit of a tough scenario, that one, I'm afraid, for the Alpine in question, who's had a pretty halfway decent day to begin with. He's certainly not made any mistakes, as, you know, crippling his race efforts. Started 4th, currently 4th. Into the pit lane here is the Williams. Angry Walrus, I'm sure, is going to be right after him. Into the pit lane he goes. Oh, but look at this. We've got a double stack here for the Williams. Soxy's actually at a bit of an off here, as we've got a yellow flag coming out of turn, what is that, 4? I believe is at the Red Bull of Owa. He's just gone around plain and simple by himself. He's exited turn 5 and has lost that car somewhere along the line under safety car. I hate to tell you, but Marcus Ericsson is in IndyCar. He has not hit you here. He's done that one all well and pure by himself under safety car. Massively unfortunate for Owa. And I hate to be cynical about it. I've made that mistake too myself, but it is definitely as heartbreaking and as humiliating as it initially seems outright like this. So, back to the dry compound tires we go for the first time since the qualifying session. Soxy will lead this grid round on the soft tires. Angry Walrus follows behind as well as Bong it, both on the softs, both with 3-second penalties. DWCJ is the closest driver not with a penalty. Could he find himself in second place after it's all said and done? That would have to be my prediction, really. At the stripe this time will be 5 laps to go. We will get maybe 3 or 4 of racing here, only like 2 of DRS. Do or die, guns blazing, bazookas under each arm. Final scene of Scarface, say hello to my little friend. You gotta really send this one. And look at the penalties again. 3 seconds for Walrus, for Bong it, for Barney for trackside, and Sepulveda's at 13. Look at this Shiesty. He's not done that on purpose, has he? Well, the wet tires then for Shiesty. Mistakes were made. Anyways. So, 5 laps to go at the stripe here. That will mean we will have maybe 4 at best of full speed running here. That would kind of be my guess. Soxy, if he gets away well and without any problems, if he doesn't pick up a penalty, this race really could just be his. Unless does Walrus and Bongit really try to send it into the first quarter. Well, this is interesting here. Bongit's actually got some traffic in the way. That being in the lap car of Onyote, I believe is that as well. Well, that's the Aston Martin of Bongit there. Sorry, Walrus there. Sepulveda's there. Yeah, we got some lap cars in the way here, fellas. Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting conclusion to this Grand Prix. I kind of doubt that the safety car would wait to bunch up here. We've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drivers yet to find the queue. And I would think that at least a couple of them are, not a lap down, but at an uncompetitive position at this point. My best guess is that we're going back to racing this time by. We'll get the notice at the Sector 3 line, or maybe exiting 9 and 10. Once it gets itself to a rather safe position. There it is, exiting turn 10. Still, no confirmation if the safety car is coming in. As we got the Red Bull of Onyote getting out of the way there. I believe he's a lap down. And has decided to pull out of the way for the lap cars, or for the lead cars. And he's hit the wall. Anyways. Well, now minus a front wing for Onyote. Anyways. Still, no confirmation that the safety car will be in at the end of the lap. I'm assuming it will now be next time by, lap 27 of 29. We will get, probably at best, 3 laps of racing here. As we enter laps 26, we'll have 27, 28, and 29 at full speed, hopefully. Soxy behind the safety car now. We've got Angry Walrus, although the Sauber of Sepulveda in the way of that. I hope that he'll do us a justice here and move out of the way. Bongit in the queue as well. DWCJ has actually filed in behind. Nope, he's in the right place. Okay. So it is just the Sauber of Sepulveda that may need to move here. Onyote, although I will say, is kind of at the back of the queue. So we started with 18. We're down to 15. Pontiac Bandit finally gets that 15th spot. After his only on lap 23 of 29, where he's 3 laps down. I would assume and hope that this time we see the safety car make its way in. Shiesty is well a ways behind, going at full speed, trying to catch his way up back to the Williams of Cato here, who is actually only going to be joining the queue now. Safety car finally in this time by. 27, 28, and 29 of racing here. DRS after the safety car comes in. That will be for lap 28. Some of the only dry running that these drivers have had all day. Remember, we had the rain begin with about 5-ish minutes remaining in the qualifying session. That, by the way, a long time ago. These drivers really could be struggling here on the dries. They've not run the dries again in some time. This might be a case of who is best to grips with the car, with the circuit. I mean, I apologize if you have some sort of photosensitivity disorder and you see that safety car blip in the top left-hand corner go berserk like that. It's done that all day. Soxy leads them out of turn 13 and now turn 14. Angry Walrus is nowhere to be found. He's actually well behind as we're back to green flag here. John the Prince has actually gotten a drive-through penalty for ignoring the yellow flag. I don't know what's happening here. Curveball's now losing spots. John the Prince, a 10-second penalty as well for ignoring the yellow flag. I have no idea what's going on here. I think the game is kind of losing its mind with the amount of lap cars perhaps in the way. DWCJ to the inside of Bongit. This is for position. Bongit not on penalty, trying to work his DWCJ here, although really struggling with that car for the time being. Big slide that time by whatever V-carb it is. Curveball trying to work his way past Barney here. He's going to maybe look for the right-hand side. To the inside, though, is Charlie Gulf. Side by side, these two go. No DRS involved. Barney, which line is he going to defend here? That's going to determine who comes out on top, and it looks as if Curveball will at least get or stay ahead of Charlie Gulf. Pontiac Bandit, 3 seconds for multiple warnings. Angry Walrus, no, he spun it round. This is coming out of Ascari. John the Prince will take the second spot. Angry Walrus falls to third. Bong at fourth. DWCJ, fifth. Now, this is the interesting dilemma here. We've got a couple of drivers with 10-second penalties. I would assume some of these penalties are going to be able to get taken off here. John the Prince will most likely need to serve his drive-through penalty. He does also have 10 seconds to his name. Can he get that taken off? That's a question. We're going to look at this final result here, and I think the only... Oh, his trackside's gone off here, I'm afraid. No, he hasn't. Well, he's picked up 3 seconds for penalties. I think the only thing we're going to be sure of is Soxy's going to win this Grand Prix. Everything else, who the hell knows? Curveball off track versus Barney. I think maybe was there contact involved. Barney is missing... well, almost the entirety of his front wing on the left-hand side. I think maybe was there something with that. Angry Walrus on John the Prince here for the second spot. To the inside, Angry Walrus side by side. And Walrus will get down below John the Prince, so I think all of these guys are battling true for position now. They think they can get these penalties erased, and I think that would probably be the case. Reimer, for some reason, is on intermediate tires. 7th place for him. Don't know what's happening. DWCJ versus Bongit here. Very close. Side by side, exiting Ascari. Agnote, 3-second penalty. Soxy out of the final corner for the penultimate time. He will start the final lap here. Into the pit lane is John the Prince to serve his drive-through. Bit of a conundrum now. Reimer, Charlie, Golf, and Trackside all hung up about here, exiting the final corner. DWCJ up to third, past Bongit. Into the first corner for the final time. Bongit still looking for it. Maybe does he try the outside? DRS activated for the Alpine of DWCJ. Of course, he was behind at the detection point going in towards turn 13. Had DRS down the pit straight, made the move. Had DRS going down the straight in towards turn 3. I don't even know what's happening with trackside. Bit of lag, I'm afraid. Charlie Gulf and trackside battling now. Trackside again kind of bouncing all over the track, it appears. Bongit within 0.3 of a second of DWCJ. Soxy making his way through turns 9 and 10 for the final time. Realistically, the hard part of the lap is over for the Williams driver. Bongit round the outside of DWCJ into turn 9. Brilliant maneuver that. Does DWCJ have anything to get back at it? No, I don't think he will, because Bongit's got DRS. The two Mercedes, I don't even know what's happening there. Contact between the two, but coming out of the final corner, the result that we do know is going to hold here. It's Soxy winning the Australian Grand Prix in the second race in a row. Don't know about Angry Walrus, don't know about Bongit. DWCJ appears he's going to finish in that 4th spot at least. I don't know, of course, what anything's going to look like after these penalties are involved. A lot of jumble of cars there crossing. This is ridiculous. Well, I will say this. Soxy takes the win. That much we do know. DWCJ, without penalty, might at least be on podium. Whether or not he stays there, that's a different question. Of course, none of these results are going to hold up. There's going to be penalties involved. There's going to be penalties gotten rid of. Yeah, I don't really think... well, there's going to be a lot of work to do for the stewarding team to find out the correct order, but Soxy, your winner today. Be sure to join us next time out when we head to Silverstone for round number 3 of the CCRL Elite Tier season. Hotspot, it has been a pleasure joining me out here once again, and I can't wait to see you next week.